Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time? There being none, verification of posting of agenda.
Pam Moore for the record. The revised agenda was posted on April 24th between the hours of 2 and 4 at the locations listed on the agenda.
Thanks, Pam. Consideration and possible action approval of agenda as submitted or revised.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
There a second?
I'll second.
That was you, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a first and second motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration and possible action, approval of minutes of the meeting held on March 6, 2024. Have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a first and second motion to approve the minutes as provided. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. First item of discussion is consideration and possible action, Heritage Account Principal Project.
I don't think this affects us, does it?
It's probably positive to take private land out of in that elk country, turn it into public or part of the, I assume it'd be part of the management area.
I'll make a motion to approve Heritage Account Principal Project as presented.
I second.
Is that you, Aubrey?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Heritage Account Principal Project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is consideration of possible action, Commission Policy 12, fee for habitat research and management.
This is talking about that they passed it through the legislature, that it
Yeah.
can be chosen where the money goes. I'll make a motion to pass Commission Policy 12. Is that right? Yeah, 12.
Second?
I'll
Second.
second the motion.
Any further discussion? There being none, We have a first and second motion to approve Commission Policy 12, fee for habitat research and management. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is considering possible action predation management plan of fiscal year 2025. I think we have seen this over and over again.
Over and over.
And I see they've amended the original plan to include mountain lion removal prior to bighorn sheep translocation and an additional $50,000 to that project. And then language is added to project 47 for lethal removal. I can't remember 47. Let's see what
Mule deer enhancement program protection.
$100,000 for coyote removal.
Project 47 is the mule deer enhancement program on page 33.
Project 41 still on there too. Understanding raven population. $2.2 million.
Yeah, they just wanted to make sure that lethal removal on the mule deer study was allowed.
What about the $300,000 for raven understanding?
What project's that, the first one?
41,
Didn't we ask them to give us a list on that last time?
several times. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what,
240,000, that's the one?
for project 41? No, 2023 is $300,000.
Project what?
41?
yeah.
Is it 41? Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the budget.
Oh, I'm looking at the actual project in here, budget and expenditures. So 256,000 of their $300,000 budget they
There's
used.
60,000 in predator fee and 180,000 in FPR funds for 240,000.
So 2023, they spent 256,000.
Oh, okay, this is a
256,000.
25 budget I'm looking
Yeah.
at. So
So,
it's getting cheaper, see, the less rate.
oh, so we're at $2.2 million to study ravens.
Well,
I mean, I have no,
I'll make a motion to not approve it.
yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to decline project 41.
How do you want that worded?
Well, I'm looking through, I think I'm okay with the rest of it. I think it's just project 41.
Decline project 41.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the predation management plan with the exception of project 41, unless additional information is provided to the board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Any comments from you guys from Endell? There being none, we have a first and second motion to approve the predation management plan with the exception of declining project 41 unless additional information is available to the board. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Next One is Commission Regulation 518, shed hunting and big game skull collection.
I'm curious if the department has any comment on this, because when I was reading this and the way I understand it, is going forward, deadheads of all species are not gonna have to be reported to Department of Wildlife and tagged? Is that a realistic resource for Department of Wildlife?
That was one element in there. I know they're also discussing NGOs and the use of deadheads, I think, was part of that provision too. But
A little
as far as
closer.
a reasonable expectation, I don't know on that as far as time management or anything like that with mule deer, elk, or any other species that comes in, plus the investigation before and all that happens. But
It
it's
just
the-
seems like we're
It's the
adding.
same form that we use currently for bighorn sheep. It just has all the different species listed on there, just bighorn sheep, or people bring those in more inclined than the mule deer and the elk and what have you. I think the shed hunting is more in relation to kind of cleaning up language in relation to enforcing the law with the shed hunting is what I was kind of told as far as the stockpiling of antlers and things like that, so that I guess it has more teeth. And I think that's why the shed hunting aspect's in there as far as the wardens and things like that, but that's only what I've been told.
I think that I'm okay with the shed hunting side of it. It's the deadheads. We're gonna do an investigation now on every dead deer head that's found. I mean, you guys don't have the resources for that. That just seems a little sheep make sense, because, the sheep were a very limited number, a very finite number, but deer, elk, antelope, I mean, it just seems like we're adding rules again, and we're really dissuading the public from being out if we're just making it that much harder for somebody to go out and enjoy a shed hunt and they find a deadhead, and now it's a full investigation. And what do they hope to prove from that investigation? If I find a deadhead that's completely picked clean, what are they gonna find? I don't know.
And if you read
I don't
this,
like that.
yeah, and if you read this, it says there is an addition to getting a big game skull tag or permit to be able to collect a big game skull. So you have to have that.
You have to have a
And the
permit to
permit
go
to
collect
pick
a
'em up.
deadhead.
Well, I believe it's probably instigated by the law enforcement division for those people that during the winter shoot an elk and hang the antlers up in the tree and then go back and say it's a deadhead. I'm sure, that's happened. It's probably very infrequent. But
I don't know. I just feel like we're
So
trying
for-
to make more laws for things that are already illegal. You can't go and shoot an elk, hang the head up in a tree,
Well, that's
take that. I
right.
mean, that's illegal already. Like, why are we did this with, what was the other thing? Oh, shed hunting. They don't want them running shed or deer and elk through the trees with their four-wheelers and side-by-side. Well, that's already illegal. And so we added another law that says they can't shed hunt during this season because people were doing that. All we're doing is making it more and more difficult for the public to go out and enjoy public lands by doing things like they have to have a tag in order to go collect a deadhead. And before they can collect it, it's got to go to the Department of Wildlife with GPS location. And law enforcement has to investigate it, and they all have to be sealed. Like, I don't get it.
I, for one, don't have a GPS, so I could not ever pick up a deadhead. Not everybody does.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I agree with everything you've said. The one comment I've been seeing on Facebook is the May 1st opening of the shed season, where there's been quite a few people question, why not April 1st? And I guess I would ask Jason now, he's familiar with Salem and Ely. Are the elk still on the winter range during the month of April? Or have they moved up onto the spring, the green up? I was just wondering where they shed their antlers and where shed hunting would occur during the month of April. Is there an overlap in general?
Just in general, I mean, elk and deer and everything in relation to the weather and what burns off and what greens up. But, I mean, on those years, we don't have a lot of precip in that. Those elk can be as high as you want. When we have a little bit of precip, they can just be scattered. So, I mean, there's
518 to making it a separate issue
Yeah.
from the regulation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration and possible action, Commission General Regulation 522, E-Tag Regulations.
Yes, 519.
She knows I'm gonna argue about that one. She wanted to just breeze right by that one.
What was that?
You skipped 5.
Oh, I did, excuse me, let me go back. We need to discuss Commission
one?
Regulation 519. I had to
Oh.
write my notes from the other one over it, so. 519, waiting periods for bighorn sheep and mountain goat. Any comments?
The floor is yours.
So, yeah, I got comments. I am against this, completely against it when it comes to desert bighorn. I am against this in terms of the sheep species in general, because the research that I've done shows that this is not really an issue. So I've got some data in the last, hold on, 18 years worth of draw data. So from 2005 to 2023. And this data is publicly posted on their website. 0 people have drawn a Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep tag twice. 1 person has drawn a California bighorn sheep tag twice. 16 people have drawn a Nelson bighorn sheep tag twice. Regardless of subspecies, in all 3 rams, 246 people have drawn 2 ram tags in their life. 3,500 have drawn 1 in their life. And that's according to the department's information since 2005. Are we really going to pass a rule because 1 person got 2 Rocky Mountain, or 1 person got 2 California tags, nobody's gotten 2 Rocky Mountain tags, and what did I say? 16 people have drawn 2 desert sheep tags. We're making rules again just to make rules. The way the wait period and the draw is set up as it is, it's gonna be, Rocky Mountain's just about a once in a lifetime tag as it is. California, according to this, only 1 person's ever drawn 2 since 2005. I don't see the justification for this, and I know where it comes from because I had quite a conversation on Facebook, and I really need to stop doing that. But people, and the comment that kept being used is it's not fair. Well, I'm sorry. We can't just make rules because it's not fair. It's a draw. It's a random draw. So why are we going to implement? The other thing is the way this is listed is successful or not, you never get to draw another sheep tag. Why? You're taking funds away from the state that they could be using to help wildlife. You're taking away hunt opportunities for people. What's the purpose of this other than those people who unfortunately have been unlucky in the draw and haven't drawn a sheep tag in 20 years, like the gentleman in the room? Some people do get lucky and draw multiple tags, but I don't understand it.
I had
2 sheep tags?
Yep, I had 2 sheep tags.
I don't understand the justification for making this rule.
Yeah,
Me
George had 2.
I am 100% opposed to this rule, and I think it's, again, ridiculous because we are limiting people's ability to go out and enjoy wildlife again by making this rule because of a select few who are upset because they haven't drawn a tag.
100% agree.
That's my comment on it.
I'd like to hear the public if there's any.
Is there any public comment on this?
Yeah, do you guys have any information on the revenue that would be?
Can you,
Glenn Ackerman?
Press so you have a green light, please.
there you go.
Glenn Ackerman. So with regards to this restriction, do you guys have any information on the amount of revenue that would be lost if this restriction was implemented across the board? And I believe it's for California, Rocky, Nelson, and Goat.
Correct.
So you know, to the point of it being unfair, it's a random draw. You're issued a random number. It's a random process, you know, and looking at other states and their processes, it's a pretty fair process that we have in place here. You know, it's a lottery draw. You know, it's just like winning the lottery, you know. But you know, I mean, this department, I'm sure that you guys can attest to it, is, you know, I mean, they struggle with funding. You really want to restrict a revenue base? Do you really want to do that? I think that puts you know, an undue burden on, you know, on the biologists, the game wardens, recruitment, you know, any number of entities in this department that require revenue to function. So why would you do that? Why? It's just not, it just doesn't make sense. So, anyhow, thank you for your time. Where's this Jason?
Anybody
I
else have
actually
comments?
don't feel that
Jim?
revenue is too much of an issue.
Oh,
You keep turning it on and off. Push the microphone. Push the microphone. There, the little red light. There you go.
Yeah, I know, but it's too much of an issue, because if you take all the desert sheep and the California tags and desert tags and the Rocky Mountain, you're only talking less than probably 200. So every year, if this one was enacted, you would eliminate maybe 200 people applying the next year. Well, we're talking 30 and 40,000 people, and that it is not going to improve the draw odds. And just again, from looking at Facebook, some of these people think, oh boy, that's going to make it a lot easier to draw a sheep tag, because we're going to eliminate what, 200 out of 80,000? No, that's nothing. So I myself am opposed completely to the once in a lifetime for these species.
When I think mountain goat is, again, I think that's another one that, looking at the draw percentages and your draw odds, you got to be real lucky to draw more than one in your lifetime as it is. So there's so much oversight in this proposal. What happens if you get a 16 or 17-year-old kid that happens to get lucky and draw a sheep tag? And they're unsuccessful. Well, they get the rest of their life now to never hunt a sheep again. Why? It's just, yeah, this one's bugged me for a while. I'm going to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to propose Commission Regulation 519 waiting periods for bighorn sheep and mountain goat.
Second
What was the motion?
What did I say?
to propose? How about
Oppose.
reject?
Oppose.
Yeah, or oppose.
Make a
okay.
motion to oppose Commission Regulation 519, waiting periods for bighorn sheep and mountain goat.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? There being none, we have a motion to oppose the waiting period for all species of sheep and mountain goat. Commission General Regulation 519. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, consideration and possible action, Commission General Regulation 522, E-Tag Regulation.
I'm actually okay with this one. I think it's a good move. I think a lot of the other states are starting to go to an E-tag, and this allows that option for E-tag versus paper. Because unfortunately, the generation we live in, everybody's got this on them, so they'll always have their phone.
There you go, Justin.
Jesse Latin. So I had an opportunity to go through the regulations or the proposed regulation. And I called a few other states in regards to their E-tag programs, which work fine. They don't seem to have a problem with it. One thing that I noticed in the proposed language as opposed to specifically Montana, the language about the validation code that you're going to affix to the animal, no other state does that. So I kind of feel like that's a very good, what's the right word? That's a good way to get in trouble with the warden. So am I gonna, is the department gonna mail me something that I affix to the animal? Is it gonna be a sticky note? Is it gonna be, am I gonna be able to make it legible in the snow? So I feel like that's pretty wasted language. Nobody else seems to have a problem with the way they're doing it, so I feel like that's a good way to get in trouble in the field. So I feel that the validation code affixing it to an animal is something that should be taken out of the rule or the proposed language. I'd also like to have somebody ask, is this going to be an app on the phone that you can download this E-tag locally to your device, or is it going to be something that you have to have network to then show it to a warden? That I did not find in the regulation, if it's going to be local or if it's going to be, maybe you have the answer. Or if, so the taxidermist is also supposed to have a validation code as well.
So
Which- I'm not a taxidermist, I'm a deer hunter, so I'm just concerned about affixing something, like, I feel like they need to pick a lane, right? We're either gonna attach a tag to an animal, or we're gonna have an E-tag on our phone. I don't need to have an E-tag on my phone and then try to affix something to the animal at all, so.
Yeah, and what it looks like when you punch your tag is when you get the validation code, so they're not gonna send you one ahead of time. I think that's a good point to bring up, is are they gonna want us to just write it on a piece of paper and then zip tie that? That's a good question to ask, I'm not sure. It does say, taxidermy record stub or the validation code must accompany the transportation of the parts. I'm okay approving it with the stipulation that that be not required. Or that we discuss that further before that goes into effect, because that is a good point.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Oh, this is a first workshop.
Let's
Okay.
see. Why don't we just
Yeah.
submit a request for more information on the validation code and whether or not that the electronic tag requires service to receive the validation code.
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's see if I can get this right. The motion's been made that we ask for more information concerning this regulation and the validation code. And what was the last part of your motion?
Whether or
Andrew?
not, let me get their wording here. Whether or not the department's designated electronic system requires cell or internet service to receive the validation code.
I don't understand any of it, so can't comment. My flip phone doesn't work.
Let's just keep punching the tag.
Okay, and requires internet does it require
Doesn't require internet or cell service.
internet or cell service
Yeah,
to,
most of the place you couldn't.
of the validation code? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. The next item is consideration of possible action, Commission Regulation 520, tag deferral, extenuating circumstances revision.
Why you look at me like I always have some argument? Actually, it's written pretty well. It looks like they've gotten rid of the ambiguity. Because that was always the concern, is somebody could technically apply and then knowing that they have a limitation or something that will stop them from being able to hunt and then defer. And it looks like they've kind of cleaned that up to where, you know, if you're diagnosed terminally ill after the tag is awarded, there's another one. Where'd it go? Any following extenuating circumstances occur after the last day that the holder is entitled to return the tag. So it looks like they're cleaning it up to where it has to be something that applies after their ability to return the tag, instead of just somebody's 3 months pregnant, they get a tag and then they wait and defer because they're going to be 9 months pregnant at hunt time. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't see any big issues with the way this is written.
Do I have a
I'll
motion?
argue the next one, maybe. I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 520.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, we have a motion to approve General Regulation 520. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Consideration of possible action, Commission General Regulation 500, subdivision map review. I think we've looked at this before.
We have.
Is there any
No
reason, no
comment.
comment? Does everybody agree to that?
Yep.
Okay. Next item, consideration of possible action, Commission Regulation 2411, black bear quotas and harvest limits for 2024.
They went up by 8. I'm definitely getting a bear tag this year.
Good luck, Jason.
Went up by 8, but non-residents down, huh?
I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 24-11.
I second.
Do I have a second?
I
I'll
second.
Any further discussion? There being none, we'll have a motion to approve Commission Regulation 2411. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, big game, Commission Regulation 2412, big game quotas for 24-25 season.
You want Jason to review each one of them, or
I don't know.
he's here for some reason?
What unit did Sarian have for antelope?
31.
They increased the quote.
Huh?
They increased the quote.
Get rid of them.
You have any comments, Jason?
If you have, we can go through each species or something in relation to Churchill County. And if you have any questions
Why don't
on
we
any
take
other
each
counties.
species individually?
Okay.
Okay.
Want to start with antelope?
Yeah.
Antelope and 18 are doing well. Success rates are super high. The population's slowly been increasing. And we're looking at, a decent buck ratio from some previous recruitment that we've had over the last 3 years. So I bumped the tags up a little bit from what we've been kind of shooting at, like 55, and that on the harvest has just been pretty super high.
Do we want to vote on each one individually?
I think that's what we've done in the past. We've
Yeah.
made a motion to approve
I'll make a
all
motion.
antelope.
Has the Navy restricted any of the expansion areas yet
No.
for trespass or hunting?
You're
Bell Flat, I
you're
assume.
talking like the B-17 and all the B-16 and all the new areas. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the new areas that are like Bell Flat and.
So all
east of
all those
Fairview.
will be currently open for a few years until the Navy starts to fence things off. We will most likely lose that antelope resource as far as hunting opportunity. There might be potential in the future to mitigate some of that loss with some water development and that, and there could be potential to actually, we could look at taking some of those antelope out prior to the Navy expansion and put them in different places too. So there could be some, I'm gonna try to keep any of all those water developments functioning and, the antelope's still out there. We will lose a lot of those, like in the B-17, we'll lose a lot of those water haul sites that are usually maintained and have water available to the antelope all through the summer months, a lot of them. So we might even look at that depending on if the permittees take out some of those tanks or look at the Navy of them coming up with keeping them intact. Now, the only thing I gained from some of that is still having an abundant antelope resource that still will wander on and off the range and still provide opportunity. There'll be net loss, but there could be some scenarios where you have some increased antelope, or maybe you have antelope that come off the base and it's in a wintering situation where there might be some harvest, but for the most part, we're going to lose a lot of those antelope that we put out there, Monte Cristos and Fairview and Slate, and a pretty significant amount of antelope, probably close to 200 something antelope.
Like you said, though, that's still several years away, 2-3 years away.
As far as I know that they're looking at, with the permittees, maybe 2 more years. and then trying to tighten those boundaries up. I know they're looking at the re-altering of the Gabbs Highway and all that. I don't know how long that will take. I mean, it could be sooner, or it could be 10 years from now. I mean, there's a lot of things to do. They got to move the pipeline and the gas pipeline and that in relation to the bombing range. So, I mean, it could go fast or it could linger on. I don't know.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve the antelope quota as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion on the antelope? There being none, we have a first and second motion to approve the antelope quotas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next one is elk.
Yeah, I don't think we have them in Churchill.
I'll make a motion to approve. Excuse me, the elk quotas as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We have a first and second motion to approve the elk quotas. All those in favor say aye.
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 I don't guess there's
Opposed?
any public comment on any of
Oh.
these. I don't know.
Yeah, public comment. Was there any, did anybody have any comments on that, the elk? Okay, sorry about that.
Overall, bull quotas are a little bit down, but cow quotas are up in relation to winter survival and calf survival. So you'll see that the cow quotas are considerably up in some units, and then some of the bull quotas are same and down a little bit.
Sheep.
Desert sheep?
Desert sheep.
Desert sheep in Churchill County are hanging in there. 180, the shining stars right now as far as Churchill County is 183, 184, but 184 this last year on survey, we did have a low lamb ratio of like 7, which was pretty indicative of what happened in 181 over the last 3 years. We're slowly starting to see an increase in lamb survival, except for that the 184 unit where we had 7 lambs per 100 ewes. We're for the most part in the low 20s, which ain't great. We'll see if this year changes up. I won't have any surveys except for ground surveys this year, and hopefully we start getting into the 30s and 40s and producing some more sheep. So it seems like we still have some lingering lamb mortality in relation to disease in most of all our herds. I mean, in 2019 in the Clan Alpines, it started with what we call that Gabbs Fairview MOV strain, and then they basically circulated through everything, 182 and 181. I did notice some adult mortality in the Monte Cristo Mountains, and there was coughing sheep, but I never found enough adult mortality in Fairview or Sand Springs. And there probably just was kind of unnoticed. But that's where we originally had the Fairview strain, which is in 2007. So there might have been a little bit of resistance or resiliency to that pathogen, but maybe not so much in the lamb generation. So you'll see that 183 is doing pretty good, and so I looked at a little bit of an increase in there. 184 is doing decent. 182 is still kind of suffering, and so we're looking at the potential of actually, maybe getting muddy sheep and augmenting it. The 182's always kind of dealt with the lion issue, but some of these herds, I think, if we are free of disease, active pathogen, we probably need to be injecting some sheep into these herds to get them rolling again so that they're more resistant to the lion mortality. We are looking at, we currently are working with Wildlife Services in relation to some of the horse removals. We took 1,500 horses out of mule deer and sheep country in 183. We took close to 1,400, I think, out of the northern Stillwaters. And we're finally starting to look at some additional lion removal because of the horse removal to try to help, in my opinion, some of the ungulate populations. So we'll see how that goes forth in reducing some of the lion densities in some of these herds because of the reduction in the foal crop for the horses. 181, you'll see considerable reductions in 181. 2022, I kind of let it roll. There was kind of a ground survey, but there was not a helicopter survey. And so looking back at it, I was probably a little bit heavy on probably the ram harvest. I mean, anything in Churchill County, if it makes it past 10 is an old sheep. So we don't get the same kind of older age class sheep like Southern Nevada does, where you can kind of continue your sheep forward with 12 and 13-year-olds. And so what we're looking at, like in 181, is we were pretty hot and heavy over the last probably 8 years of hunting sheep in there. But the problem is the last 3 years, the lamb recruitment has been super low, so single digits. And the problem is the lions that are based on Fairview and some of them in Sand Springs, they're still nickeling, diming the adult population. And it's not so much of a problem when you have, lamb races in the 30s and 40s because you have those new yearlings being produced. But when you have 3 years of consecutive single-digit lambs, it definitely, and having enough lion base there that 181 has seen some significant decreases with the predation and a little bit of that, of course, the disease event with new recruitment. So we're looking at 181 of an estimate of about 300 total sheep. And so I'd like to get in there too to sometime and reduce the group of lions that are in there as well to try to give them a kind of an upper hand as far as trying to recover and get more into that, probably more in that 400 to 500 range that we've seen in the past in Unit 181. So it's not doom and gloom. There's still hope, but it's just, we're just kind of in a little bit of a slump with disease and some of the predation.
Thanks, Jason.
I make the motion that we accept the sheep numbers.
We have a second?
A second?
Any further discussion? We have a motion to accept the bighorn sheep quotas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is mountain goat.
I think it's California bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn, and mountain goat. And I'll make a motion to approve the quotas as submitted for those 3 species.
For what species now?
For Rocky Mountain bighorn, California bighorn, and mountain goat.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jason. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, I have a motion to accept the quotas for Rocky Mountain, California sheep, and mountain goat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Last group is mule deer, I believe.
Mule deer in Churchill County seem like they're doing well, considering the terrain and the habitat and the limitations on the brush communities. But I did have a post-survey flight in a day and a half, and we classified over 500 individuals with a buck ratio of like 38. And so that was what was incorporated into the model with that buck ratio, because we haven't had fall flights for a long time. We've kind of been maintaining or looking at, the harvest has always been anywhere from 29% to like 36%. It's just it is a harder unit. Locals kind of know how to hunt it a little bit. This year, I think we had a 36% harvest success with a 50% 4-point. So I look at that 50% 4-point as a good measure, and that higher, 40s as a good measure, and that 4-point or better. The overall success is just what it is. It is just a harder unit for people to kind of hunt and access. And so I am looking at, because of that post-hunt buck ratio of 38, and I basically went down.
Okay, next item is request from the state of Utah for the desert bighorn sheep translocation into the state of Utah.
Do we know where they're pulling those sheep from? Is it down south? Are they gonna send us something in return?
Send us the moose.
I don't know, I'm torn on it. I mean, we just heard our biologist for Churchill County say how hard our sheep numbers are, and we're gonna give sheep away. I don't know. I'm kinda torn on that personally, but
Well, that brings up a good point. You were saying that you're maybe inject sheep here. Do we get those just locally as well?
No, I've been advocating for moving our muddy sheep to the north if, we're not actively PCR positive with infection and that. Anywhere in the state of Nevada where we have lower sheep numbers, as a biologist, we should be moving our own sheep into some of these areas to help our sheep. Whether it's an experiment, whether it's a study design, everything can be collared, everything can be monitored. The only thing we don't want, and I think it's doable with the holding facility, is to be positively sure that the sheep that we're moving from the muddy mountains are totally disease-free and do not have any different types of strains that we would want to move north. And currently, right now, they are disease-free, but those would be the safeguards you would look at if you were taking muddy sheep possibly putting them in, you know, maybe a holding facility where maybe you have to have them in a chain link fence for like 2 weeks or something to make positive that when you're making the move to the north or whatever, that we're not injecting a new MOV strain. But we do have a lot of places that we probably should be injecting our sheep like we did in the past. In the past, looking back, I mean, we probably moved MOV all over the state, just not knowing it at the time.
Right.
I mean, it's all related to domestic sheep, and domestic sheep were here in the 1800s. So who knows how many MOV strains at that time, even in the 30s and 40s and 50s, we were moving. So I would, look at it as an experiment design, what percentage, makes it or dies or whatever. But there's definitely a lot of places where we've had a kind of a slow downward spiral with our desert sheep. And a lot of it is related to the disease aspect, but a lot of it has been because on some of it, we've been dead in the trap and transplant world for the last 10 to 12 years. We haven't moved many sheep, right or wrong, but.
I'll make a motion that the department considers augmenting their own herds in the state before we pass sheep to other states.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion to ask that the commission consider augmenting our own herds of sheep before sending sheep out of state. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, consideration of possible action, approval of state fiscal year 2025 travel budget to the Nevada Department of Wildlife.
That's just administrative stuff, right?
Yeah, I just need to have you guys approve this budget that,
Yeah.
this already had to go in and I had to do it without the board's approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the submission for the travel budget for Churchill County Wildlife Advisory Board.
And as you guys can see, I put money in there for travel to Elko, Reno 3 times, and then Yerington.
We
I
still
figured it
do
was two.
have money in
We
it,
still do have
the
money
county
here in the
treasurer.
county, so,
so they probably won't approve anything new.
no, they won't. So, you approved, you made the recommendation, Jim?
Yes.
Did I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? There being none, I have a first and second motion to accept the fiscal year 2025 travel budget. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, next thing is update from the Department of Wildlife regarding the proposed fishing closure of Smith Creek Reservoir. Chris, is that you?
Hello, Chris Urquhart. So Smith Creek Reservoir is over in Lander County, but it's fairly close to Churchill County. So we want to give you guys an update on a proposed closure. I believe they're going to bring that to the commission in the June meeting. I don't think it's on the agenda for this weekend. But we want to let you guys know ahead of time on all this kind of stuff. It's been more of our policy to get you guys information as soon as possible. So over the past 20 years or so, Smith Creek Reservoir has gone dry several times. There really hasn't been a sport fishery up there, and we haven't stocked it since, well, as far back as I looked, was 91. The ranch itself did do some old hatchery operations up there, and they had stocked it, and they had a fishery going historically, but they haven't done that for over 10 or 15 years. There's been a constant problem with the public accessing the reservoir through the private property on the ranch. There's been trespass tickets issued and things like that over the last 20 years. And the reservoir currently doesn't have, or hasn't had a sport fishery component to it, but the public has still tried to access the reservoir and the lands above the reservoir, and it's created some problems with public and private interface at that ranch. We want to maintain good relationship with our private landowners up there. There's high-value wildlife habitat all along their private property as well as around it. And about, well, it was 2019, we got into some discussions with the Smith Creek Ranch and tried to come up with a plan to create and maintain some kind of a sport fishery up there with LCT and tiger trout. That plan fell through. It didn't move forward. However, in that plan was a small allocation of stocking for tiger trout, and that one line in our stocking allocation was overlooked this year, and it wasn't zeroed out, and it was left at 1,000. So there was a small stocking of tiger trout that happened up there in early April. And the ranch contacted us, and they were concerned about creating an additional public nuisance and attractive, problem with having additional people going up there and trying to catch those 600 fish that we put in there. So for our, and then they contacted us and they were concerned about it. So they have been speaking with our headquarters and our regional staff, as well as our Elko County staff and Lander County. And for the time being, we're going to propose to close it until something changes, basically, for the either the public access issue or the ranch landowners, or something to that effect will need to happen in the future. But that's the 2-minute overview of it. If you guys have any specific questions, I'll try to answer
Hendricks
them.
still have that?
What's
The
that?
same people, the same landowners?
Hendricks,
Yeah, well, Ray,
Mark and Ray.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ray was the previous landowner, and about 3 or 4 years ago, his son Mark is the manager now. Yeah.
Chris, but there's public access to that reservoir, because the whole reservoir is not fenced out.
That's
Making
correct.
it impossible for the public to,
Yeah, the BLM
Access.
built actually
Yeah.
a public access
Yeah.
route.
There is a road around the south side, to the south bay.
it's a rough son of a gun, because
And
we were
nobody
up there
uses
last
it.
year, and it
Yeah.
was,
And that's been
not
part of
very
the
good,
problem.
but-
The best access is right by their ranch house, right up the bottom of it. And they've had continual problems with hunters and anglers and just people recreating in four-wheelers and UTVs and everything else. Just blows right by their house and causes a problem. So we don't want to exacerbate that issue with having something up there that
So
isn't really worth it.
is the department proposing just to close fishing in the reservoir to try and eliminate people from going up there for fishing, or to help subsidize blocking off the road that goes past their house? And
No, we're not gonna help them fence off or do anything on their private property, no. This is just to eliminate the attractive nuisance of the reservoir having a fishery in it when it will probably be dry in 2 years again anyway.
All right, did you say they were still stocking it by
No.
purchasing fish?
No,
So they don't have a fishing club business?
not anymore,
Not anymore.
no.
So it'll be closed to them also.
The dam on
The
the,
reservoir will be closed to fishing,
correct,
period, for the public and for them.
correct.
Okay. They do realize that.
The reservoir will be closed to fishing. Yes. And I'm not gonna get into I don't know the legality of what would be enforced if they did try to go fishing on their private property in the reservoir, but there won't be a fishery in that reservoir. So,
Well, there's still public fish in there, brown trout from the creek above.
so the creek above will not be closed. And occasionally,
no.
yes, fish do come down from the creek into the reservoir, yes.
So they do not have a private hatchery type, non-commercial permit.
No, they
So
don't.
they're public fish. So therefore they have to follow regulations like we do.
Correct. They would have to follow the same regulations as everybody else. And they do not have a commercial operation anymore out there.
And you said the state's not gonna be allocating any resources to maintaining that.
Any other comments? Public comments? Do you guys have any comments that you want to make?
Can we make a motion, or is this,
It's
This-
not
Mr.
a,
Latin?
It's not on the agenda.
No.
it's,
You want my chair?
this is an informational, it's not like an approve or whatever. It'll be on the next commission cycle for approval, I believe.
Yeah, it wasn't on this time, Chris.
Yeah.
Will you guys be approving or not approving something at this time?
Yeah, we can't, it's not on the agenda.
So there's not going
It's
to be a
just
motion?
informational.
What?
This item,
Right.
it's just informational.
Okay, I thought it was on the agenda. It's an amendment. It's not on ours, but it is on the state agenda.
You can vote to support or
right?
not support, which is what the other cabs have done.
Oh, well, I'll make a motion to support this.
I'm just checking.
All right, then I will continue. It's Jesse Latin for the record. So we're talking about closing 3/4 of a mile of that shoreline is public property. So I can go there if I want to. And a half a mile of the shoreline is private property. So I just want to go on record that we're closing public access to public ground.
No,
And
we're
I
not closing the access, we're closing this ability to
We're
fish there.
closing, so I will no longer be able to go there on public property to fish that.
Right,
Because
if
the
the fishing
fishing
is
access
closed.
will be closed. So we're closing public fishing on public property. And I cannot support that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Pam, it is on our agenda too, right? Okay. I feel about like Jesse. It's been an issue out there for years. And they've, to me, taken a public water and some public land and made it into their own private fishery. They have been permitted, I mean, it's been an issue all the way since Andy Drum owned that ranch, way back in the 40s and 50s, so. But I guess I'm opposed to the state suggesting, for the reason that were listed, closing a public water to fishing.
I rescind my motion.
I don't think you ever had a second.
I didn't, so it doesn't matter.
So Jim, are you making a motion to oppose the closing?
Well, there was a motion, so I was waiting to see what,
It's been rescinded.
oh, okay.
I have no.
I will make a motion to oppose, what is this, what's the commission number even on it?
There isn't a number on it? Just the,
Is there other
Fishing
actions
closure.
that can be taken outside of closing the fishery? I guess that would be my next question. If it's a private property issue, are there other things that can be done outside of just closing that? So I guess I didn't understand the property enough to really, I shouldn't have made a motion. But listening to kind of the comments made about it, it sounds like it's really a private landowner situation that is there a way that we can do it better other than closing public access? Or public fishing?
There, this has been, as Jim alluded to, an issue since the 1940s, and nobody has been able to come up with a solution for that particular water body as of yet. To that point. So there may be, but I'm not aware of it.
Do people swim in this water? I mean,
Could. I
You
guess.
probably could.
are we, like, we're gonna block one thing, but, I mean, is it really gonna fix the problem, I guess is the question. Other than penalize public, is it?
It will help the problem, and the problem does arise from the public and their lack of respect for the private property. So this is a good example of what can happen when the public doesn't respect private property. It comes to a head.
But the problem, Chris, is the public doesn't know where the public land and the private land
They do.
exist out there,
Yeah,
do they?
It right through the guy's front yard is the biggest
Well,
problem.
yeah, but where we were, we never were by the main house. We came down on the very bottom end of the property, and there was no fences, there was no nothing there.
That's
Other
correct.
than there was, some pasture which was fenced. And it probably, the fencing ran down to the reservoir, but there is other accesses besides going through the main ranch.
Correct. But that's not what the people that are abusing that,
They're going
Private
through,
property
they're
are
going
using.
through the main ranch, and
yes.
so it sounds to me
Yeah,
like
so-
they need to somehow put a fence or gate in there. If it's a private roadway, that they should be blocking that private road off.
It is posted. And that's where the trespass issues.
No, that's it. During the summer, they come up over from the west side too and up over the top and on down to the
Right.
reservoir. It's the Pony Express Trail. I don't know. We had an issue with people in float tubes going over the top of private, their portion. Well, that is not private water. Water in Nevada belongs to the people in Nevada. They have the right to use it. So there was no violation by floating over the top. Now you touch the bottom, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
So it's been complicated for, back in the 60s when I first got involved in it. And that's only 64 years.
Yeah.
And
Do we have a motion to accept this or not accept the regulation? We'd like to see more
I'll
that
make a
comes out of
motion
it.
at this time to oppose the closure of Smith Creek Reservoir to fishing.
I have a second.
A second.
The commission's gonna close it anyway, but
Okay, any further discussion? There being none, we have a motion to oppose the closure of the fishing in Smith Creek Reservoir. All those in favor say aye.
all right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.